name's Steve Maruzzi. I'm here to talk about the Mascot II, how to navigate through our control system. What I do want to mention to you is anytime you first power up the boiler, you will get a flash code. That flash code is 3.6. It's locked on the screen for approximately 90 seconds, so you can't do anything with it. And all that is the display version itself. So right now it's 3.6, and it's communication time between the display and the Honeywell control. We also have an up and down arrow on the right-hand side and 2 buttons on the bottom. So when you first start up your boiler, you want to get in and set the central heat set point. So for example, if we're using baseboard heat and we want to run 180 degree temperatures, we would want to bring this temperature up. So looking at the outlet screen, and I know we're in the outlet screen because it tells us that right here on our display, press the up arrow, hold the up arrow for a couple of seconds, and now you can adjust the screen. It does come defaulted for 120 degrees from the factory. That is because we don't know what type of systems you're going to be putting in. You could be putting in in-floor radiant. You may be looking at a hydro air system or a baseboard heat system. So again, you want to press and hold the up arrow and bring it up to a desired set point. For this example, I'm going to come down and set it for 170. Okay? Once we're done, we have to hit this button, which is the done button. On the screen, it shows done. If you press and hold the done button, now release it, it's now restored our central heat set point temperature. Okay? If you forget to do that, it'll go back to the defaulted set point or the previous set point. So if you forget that, it will go back to the 120 defaulted set point. Next thing we want to do, if you're doing the LMC, the combination boiler, you want to get in and set up your domestic hot water. So that's done on the user mode, and I'll explain the 3 modes of operation shortly. In the user mode, just press the next button. So we're going to start on the outlet screen, press next. It's going to go to inlet, press next again. It's going to go to delta T, and next again is DHW. This is where you can set and adjust your domestic hot water. So for an LMC combination boiler, it comes defaulted for 120 degrees. And what you want to do, keep in mind, we always like to see a mixing valve on the system. All right? We don't want anybody getting scalded. So if you're not using a mixing valve, just set it to your local state codes, whether it's 118, 120, etc. However, if you're using a mixing valve, you want to set that temperature a little higher than your mixing valve. So in this example, I'll go back into this by just scrolling through until I see DHW. Now I can use my up arrow, and I'll bring this up to 130 degrees. Okay? That gives me a little room to heat the water up so we get even flow through your mixing valve. You must hit the done button to store it. So I'm now going to press the done button. Okay? So now what we've done is we've set up our domestic hot water and our central heat set points. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is the 3 modes of operation. We have user mode, we have setup mode, and we have diagnostic mode. The user mode is very simple. Just press and scroll through the next button. So here we're starting at the outlet screen. Press next again is the inlet. Next is delta T. Here is your DHW. Continue down, and you're going to see your stack temperature. So if this boiler was running, it would give us a higher stack temperature or tell us what our stack temperature is. With an outdoor sensor hooked up, which we highly recommend on any high-efficiency piece of equipment, this will tell you what your outdoor sensor or what your outdoor temperature is at the moment. Press next again. It'll show you the rate of fire. So if this boiler was actually running at this moment, it'll tell you, is it running at 20% of fire or is it running at 100% of fire? So this is nothing more than the user mode. Okay? Continue down, lead lag, which we're not going to talk about right here because that's done when you're cascading boilers, and that's covered in our training classes at the factory. So I'm going to start with the outlet screen. So now we've gone through, we've set in the DHW and the central heat. The next thing we want to do is get into setup mode. Setup mode is press and hold the up and down arrows simultaneously. Press and hold them until the Fahrenheit symbol appears on the screen. Now I know I'm locked into the setup mode. Okay? Now I can get in and set up my outdoor reset. Press next again. It's going to read LBT, HOD, LOD, on. Okay? If it's off, that means your outdoor reset is not going to be configured. So If it was in the off position, just use your up or down arrow and highlight on or bring it to the on position. LBT is our low boiler temperature. HOD is our high outdoor temperature. And LOD is our low outdoor temperature. What we do is we set those three parameters, and now our outdoor reset curve is already set up for us. So with the feature turned on, I press next. Oh, and one more thing to mention, you don't have to hit done every time in this menu. So when you're in setup mode, you can wait till the end and then hit done and it'll store it. So it's flashing LBT. LBT is our low boiler temperature. So let's take the example of baseboard heat. What is the minimum boiler temperature we can have on a high outdoor day? And that example would be, let's say it was 55 degrees outside. Somebody turns on a thermostat, we want the heat to come on. Well, do we need 180 degrees to run through baseboard heat at 55 degree outdoor air? Absolutely not. So what we can do is now adjust that, all right? Maybe you can get away with 125 degree. Maybe you can get away with 120 degrees. Or you may feel you want 130 or 140. So simply, when you're in LBT, adjust your up and down to your desired set point. Press next again. It'll give you the HOD, high outdoor, all right? So at 65 degrees is what this example is. It will allow us to bring up 125 degree temperature, all right? Again, you can adjust that. You can drop that down to 60. You want to bring it up to 67 or 68? You may. Press next again, and that is low LOD, low outdoor, okay? That is typically defaulted for 0 degrees. That's your coldest day of the year. Most times I will set it up for 10 degrees, depending on the region, all right? Now what happens is at 10 degrees, for this example, someone calls for a zone of heat, it's going to allow that boiler to achieve 180 degrees, all right? So this is our curve. So at 10 degrees of outdoor air, we're now going to achieve 180 degrees, okay? And as your temperature climbs to 50, 55, 60, what have you, it'll drop the temperature of the boiler output, all right? Next again is a remote address. A single boiler always has a remote address of 1, okay? We also utilize this control on our Neotherm products, and we can what's called cascading, where you can put multiple boilers together. We talk about these things at our training classes at the factory. Press next again, lead lag. This feature is not used on a standalone boiler, only in cascading. It should always be off, all right? So on a standalone boiler, you should have a remote address of 1, and the lead lag function should be off. Not in leader, not in slave, but off. Press next again, HS. HS stands for hysteresis. That's an engineering term for differential, all right? Press next again, and there's our differential. It's 5 degrees. So what that means is at 180 degree set point, we actually will come up to 185 degrees before we shut off. It'll drop down to 175 degrees, so 5 degrees less your set point. And this example is 175 before it turns back on. Okay? Press next again, base load. We're not utilizing that on this feature. It's 50%. You can ignore it. SD. This is our warm weather shutdown. Okay? So we press next again, and the SD warm weather shutdown is typically defaulted for 100, but you need to adjust that. It was already set up here on this example for 70. What that is if your boiler, if someone turns on a thermostat, anything above 70 degrees will not allow the boiler to come on for central heat. It'll only allow it to come on for domestic hot water. All right? And this is adjustable. So if you wanted your high outdoor set at 60 degrees and your warm weather shutdown at 65, this is where you would adjust it. Any short cycle, what this is if any time you have a call for heat and someone's turning on a thermostat, then turns it off, turns it right back on, you don't want to short cycle the boiler, okay? It's defaulted for 0 minutes. You can increase this all the way up to 15 minutes if needed, okay? Or just leave it at 0. And if you have one zone that's real small, let's say you had a baseboard heating zone in a basement, it was only 10 feet, what happens is the boiler may start bouncing off the temperatures and coming right back on. This is where you can utilize the any short cycle feature as well and bring that up. When you're done now setting this all up in this setup mode, just simply press the next button, the done button, to store all your changes. All right. Now, one more thing I want to talk about. We talked about an LMC. There's also an LMH. LMH is hydronic version only. All right. With the LMC, it's a combination boiler. We have a domestic hot water flat plate heat exchanger that delivers hot water to your faucets. In an LMH, you can use that with an indirect tank. All right. So if you have an indirect, you want to choose the LMH. All right. Now it's an indirect coil. You're going to take your heating pipes sticking out of the back of the boiler or the back side bottom of the boiler, which would have gone to a flat plate heat exchanger, which now is available for the indirect. When you choose that option, what you want to do on your domestic set point is you want to increase that temperature. You want to get that up to about 180 degrees. All right. That is your hot water coil going through your indirect tank. That's not your set point on your tank. Your set point on your tank would be done with an aquastat, and that would land on the wiring for the aquastat for the indirect. So on that as well, that is done in the user mode. So you're just going to scroll down till you see DHW, okay? And then you're going to use your up arrow and bring that temperature to come up to your indirect at approximately 180 degrees. So this is actually measuring the temperature leaving, going into the indirect tank, all right, to heat that coil. That's it. So this was a simple example of how to navigate through the user interface on the Mascot II. We do have whole training classes on a regular basis at our facility in Rochester, New Hampshire. So please go to our website at www.laars.com. We do have a sign-up link for training classes for residential and commercial, and please attend some of our classes. Thank you.